Hello. Hello. Welcome to History Chats this afternoon. Um, yeah, so just gonna get started here and just let people join as always, in case anybody, wants to join here. At 12:30 we'll be starting, so I'm just gonna make sure everything, the audio is working and that maybe tell you about some stuff coming up. Although, I guess we don't really have too much else to talk about. Our History Speaks series for the year has been finished, and we're in the process of planning the next year's. So can't tell you about a December program for that because we don't have one. But if you're watching this and haven't gone back and paid attention to what we've been doing the past year, all of those programs are up on our YouTube channel. So if you want to see some history there, I think all of them except the one that was a documentary. So we didn't just screen the documentary. You can go seek that out elsewhere. Everything else has been recorded and is available online. So I guess there's that. I just didn't put the graphic up. We're also getting ready. We're in the middle of decorating the houses here for our holiday season, being the weather for it, I guess, this week. With the snow. So yeah, that's coming up. We have going to have an event, Holiday at the Houses, which I'm sure we'll tell you more about as time gets closer to that. But that'll be December 10th. Once again, opening up the houses and having some special decorations and events throughout the day. So yeah. Okay, just making sure that everything looks like it's working, which is always good. And maybe I started a little too early because I'm out of things to really talk about. So just give it another minute here and let people get the chance to join. Yeah, so we're coming up at the end of the year. By the way, as always, if you have any suggestions for future programming, as I said, we're getting ready for the History Speaks series next year, our lecture series. So, but also, History Chats, these programs here are always, we always have ideas, but it's nice to get some public feedback if there's something that you're very curious to hear about or to see. Always open to those suggestions. So feel free to send those our way. But we do have at least a couple yet this year that we're in the process, including this month here about the neighborhoods at Wausau. So I think, yeah, maybe we'll just get into the one for today. A little bit early, but I think with the delay, I think we'll kind of even out here in the end. So yeah, let's just throw it over to Gary Gisselman, and he'll be telling you about the Near West Side. Take it away.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Ben. Well, good afternoon, everyone. So today in this month of neighborhoods, today we're going to be talking about the Near West Side neighborhood of Wausau. So what is that? Well, we'll come to talk about that, but there are a lot of landmarks, a lot of different unique stories with regard to that Near West Side of Wausau. Some things here, some things are still here. Many things have gone away, and we'll try to narrow that story down a little bit. So a variety of different kinds of stories that we have on this Near West Side of Wausau. So what do we mean by the Near West Side of Wausau? Well, that's kind of arbitrary, I guess. So for today's event, we sort of picked this neighborhood, this part of the west side of Wausau from Porter Street all the way up a little north of Elm, and then pick your west boundaries, whether it be 6th Avenue or whatever. So we're going to be bouncing around this little neighborhood through the years. So I hope it's kind of fun, brings back a little bit of memories and some people and factories and churches and everything that sort of brought on the movement of people to the west side. So this is our standard view of 1879 Wausau. Of course, most of the people are on the east side of the river. The river flows through this city at this time. If you glance down at the bottom part of the picture, you're going to see the west side, and some of that is the near what we would be calling the near west side of Wausau. Again, we really can't explain, the movement of people really centering on the east side of Wausau for so long. And then gradually, in 1879, we're starting to see the movement of people across those rickety bridges, those bridges across the falls. You can see in Clark's Island, you can see the Barker Stewart Island, you can see the falls, and then you come to this little part of Wausau on the west side. So this is an early picture of the west side looking over the Wisconsin River. A very good picture of the falls. And on the top there you see the bridge coming over. This would be on the west branch of the Wisconsin River. Somehow in the early days they were making the movement across the bridges onto the west side and gradual settlement on the west side. Again, a little bit later, a little bit more development on the west side, looking again on the west side across the Wisconsin River. A great picture, I think, of the falls of this Big Bull Falls, a great picture of what the falls really meant for the city for many years. So let's start. This is a map of the city in 1880.
Oh, I think the Zoom has decided to not share your screen. Hold on. Let's see if we can get this back up. Well, this is a new one. Okay, sorry about the delay here. Okay, it'll be fine. We just need to re-screen share. Okay, there we go.
Now we're good?
Now we're good.
Sorry about that. Little technology here. So this is a map of the early 1880s in Wausau. You can see a lot of development on the east side, of course. But one of the things that we're starting to notice is that the rail lines are starting to come into the city, both the Chicago and Northwestern, as well as the Milwaukee Road. And when the railroad crossed the Wisconsin River in 1880 onto the west side, that was also sort of one of those markers of the development of the west side, because now not only we have the bridges, but we also have the railroad coming onto the west side. But there's one story that we really have to spend a couple minutes on. If you notice there's a little street called Clinton Street. And of course, if you look around for Clinton Street today, you won't find it because it's gone. Clinton Street, this is a view looking east from the west side. So you have First Avenue, and you have the Scott Street Bridge. Well, you have the Scott Street Bridge eventually coming to the west side of Wausau, ending up at First Avenue. Well, what happened? That's certainly not the way it looks today, which we'll see in a minute. So the bridge was different. So we had a little bit of a different layout of streets. And of course, we had Clinton Street. So this was basically Clinton Street. It went away. I'll talk about that in a minute, but at First Avenue and Clinton Street. So this Clinton Street is a very notable street. I think it's one of the more fascinating streets in the city. Unfortunately, it's gone. It went away. So when the city fathers decided that we're going to make Stewart Avenue a quick way from downtown to the new highway, they reworked Stewart Avenue and coming off the bridge. So now we have a direct line from the end of the bridge, Memorial Bridge, right to Stewart Avenue. So that meant a lot of things went away, including Clinton Street. So this is the way it looks today. This is quite familiar. Coming over Clark's Island and then heading west, or vice versa. So this did change the whole layout of the west side, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So which gives me to Clinton Street. So I just had to fill in a little bit of what Clinton Street meant to the city on the west side. So one of the first big developments here on Clinton Street was the Curtis brothers, Curtis and Yale plant, wood products, windows, sashes, doors, any kinds of wood products was made here at the Curtis and Yale plant. At this time, perhaps the largest manufacturer, the largest employer in the city of Wausau, starting in the early 1880s. So it was a good part of the west side for a long time, one of those early manufacturing plants. You can see that eventually it would grow, and I know this is an aerial view looking north with Clinton Street there and First Avenue. So the Curtis and Yale plant wound its way, grew so large that it wound its way up to the railroad tracks on the northwest side there of First Avenue. So again, a large 600 employees at one time, maybe even more. But eventually, Curtis in the 1950s closed, and that changed the whole landscape of this neighborhood again. So this was again a large plant, a large woodworking plant on Clinton Street, and Clinton Street, by the way, comes from the place where the Curtises came from. They came from Clinton, Iowa, and when they decided to name that street in front of their plant, they named it Clinton. So that's where that Clinton Street name comes from. But also, so then I just want to move on a little bit to some of the other things that were generating the people coming into the west side. So now we have also in the 1880s, in 1890s, Grace United Church of Christ on 3rd Avenue. They started on the east side of Wausau on Jefferson Street, but then eventually in 1895, they came and built this church, this sanctuary on 3rd Avenue. This current building was built in 1926. Again, one of the earliest churches on the west side. Manufacturing churches, a variety of other things sort of generates the people into the west side and the movement of people into this part of the city of Wausau. Another part of the growth of this west side was the Lincoln School up on South Fifth Avenue, 1892. This decade, was an important part of the school school building in the city of Wausau. In addition to Lincoln School, we have Franklin School on Bridge Street. And if you've seen my other chats with regard to schools, they're sort of describing the growth of Wausau as well as the growth of schools. So this at this time was pretty much sitting on the of edge of the city on the west side. There wasn't too much to the west of Fifth Avenue at this time in 1892. We see that the city fathers would usually be placing their schools at the edge of the city because they anticipated the growth, the great growth of the city that eventually we would come to see. Irving School, Longfellow School, where eventually other schools were built, but Lincoln School here on the west side, 1892, excuse me. Also, so another feature of the growth of the west side was the city fathers deciding to put a firehouse. In fact, firehouse number 2 was on 101 South 2nd Avenue. Again, a sort of a feature of city government that we are now starting to see the growth of the people, and we needed a firehouse on the west side. So this, I just wanted to show you a little bit of a map now, just to get a little bit of bearings about where Firehouse number 2, Lincoln School, Grace United Church of Christ, all centering around Clinton Street and the growth of the west side coming off of those bridges. But the west side, in addition to everything else, it's about people. And one of the strong people of this west side was Mary Poor, who was born in New York, came to Wausau I believe in the 1850s. Her husband went off to the Civil War. She was really a great person here on the west side. She owned land, a variety of different. I know this is a bad picture, but it demonstrates the Mary Poor's first edition on the west side here, on the west side of the city, up by Spruce and Cedar, as well as the Mary Poor second edition. So Mary Poor was very active in the development of this part of the city of Wausau. This was her house at 406 North 3rd Avenue. It is not there anymore, but her presence on the west side was really crucial for the development of the west side. This is Mary Poor with her Sunday school class. She was a charter member of the First Presbyterian Church in downtown Wausau. One of the founding, like I said, one of the founding members, and very involved with the development of the First Presbyterian Church. And she brought that development to the west side because eventually the First Presbyterian Church had a chapel on 3rd Avenue, and eventually this would become called the Mary Poor Chapel. This building is still here on 3rd Avenue. But Mary Poor being a very important person in the development of the west side. A lot of other people, of course, were contributing to it, but I think that we have to really feature Mary Poor as one of those influential people that helped the development of the west side. So let's carry the history of the west side a little bit further. This is around 1900, a map of, you can see that the population is starting to grow into the west side. We see this pretty much the same development, but I want to call your attention to the bottom of the map, where it's Warren Park, but above that it's the Worley Park. With the Worley Park neighborhood, it's still a neighborhood today, But at one time, this is where our first baseball was played in the city of Wausau. So, in addition to all the other things going on in the city, baseball was starting to happen. It didn't start at Athletic Park that we know today, but it was at Worley Park on the south side of the growing west side of Wausau. You notice that the fairgrounds are here, a variety of other things that are starting to move the people into the west side. I just want to narrow a little bit of a close-up of our neighborhood here. We can still see the Curtis brothers. Speaking of Mary Poor, notice the street names, the Stewart Avenue, after, of course, Alexander Stewart, Clark, after John Clark, one of the early founders of the city, William Callan, and Walter Alexander. So some city fathers were able to get street names named after them on this growing part of the west side. But then as we move into the 1900s, another growth spurt, I would say, starts to happen. In addition to some other businesses that were already starting to happen, we have Citizen State Bank being organized in 1907. It opened on First Avenue, but then soon enough, they built this building in 1908. The building is still here at 120 Clark Street. It is no longer a bank, of course. The bank moved to a larger bank on First Avenue eventually. But this building is still here, and it's really a landmark of the growth of the west side of Wausau. It still anchors really this close proximity to the bridges and the development of Wausau. The West Siders felt that they needed a bank. The business was starting to really grow, manufacturing and a variety of other businesses were really starting to grow. Beyond the Curtis, a variety of other plants were growing. So the need for a bank, and thus Citizen State Bank in 1908. This is a picture of the interior. In addition to Grace United Church of Christ was on Third Avenue. Trinity was to come early in the 1900s, 1908, 1909. Trinity on Stewart Avenue. German Lutheran Church. The Lutherans on the west side of Wausau were starting to complain about sending their children over the rickety bridge to the Zion Lutheran Church on the east side. So Zion Lutheran Church donated some land on Stewart Avenue so that this Trinity Church could be built. Of course, Trinity Church became much larger schools and all, but this is one of those early indicators of the growth of the west side. A little too fast there. So again, some businesses that were here and went away. This little West Side Cafe and Jerry's Bakery on First Avenue. Of course, this went away when that Stewart Avenue came through and took out a lot of the businesses. So a lot of these little local businesses that were on First Avenue or Clinton Street or Third Avenue all went away because the Stewart Avenue had to make way for 4 lanes of traffic, and this cafe and Jerry's Bakery went away. A lot of people still have fond memories of these two businesses on First Avenue. And of course, when we talk about Clinton Street and we talk about this picture on your left is the Sam's Pizza, the original home of Sam's Pizza. You can sort of get a little bit of a hint of this looking down Clinton Street on your right. You can see the green pizza sign. This is where Sam's Pizza now on Elm Street is, but they started here on Clinton Street. The owners lived on the second floor. They came to Wausau, decided they want to start a business, a pizza place, and thus Sam's Pizza was found. Again, one of the landmarks that went away when we had to take Clinton Street away and build Stewart Avenue. But one of the buildings still here is a Klein Heinz ice cream shop, ice cream factory, the first factory in the city that, the first dairy in the city that manufactured ice cream. This building is still here on 2nd Avenue. Of course, they're no longer a dairy company, but again, this is a notable landmark on the west side as well as in the city. A large manufacturing of dairy products in this building through many years, beginning in the 1920s. So again, a landmark in the city, Klein Heinz Dairy, one of the manufacturing plants that really was a large anchor for the employment on the west side. And then another building, looks like a newer building of the Labor Temple on 3rd Avenue. It's there, building in the 1950s, but this was home to the Labor Temple prior, because we don't really know exactly when the Labor Temple, there was an older Labor Temple here. We don't know exactly the history of that early Labor Temple, but was here. And now this serves as the Labor Temple on 3rd Avenue. A little bit further down on 3rd Avenue is what we call the German Society. It's on the corner of 3rd and South 3rd Avenue and Garfield, the home of sort of a German labor and social meeting hall, a variety of different things that the German neighborhood did. Again, as what we spoke of, other German neighborhoods, the German Society started this hall on 3rd Avenue. And we show this as this building is still here. These buildings are still here. Does it look familiar to some folk? Yes, this is on 1st Avenue. If you would be looking down Clinton Street, you would be facing this building today. But of course, Clinton Street's not here. Imagine yourself looking from the bridge to the west side, and you would be seeing Palace Clothiers. Again, these retail stores that are starting to come into the west side, serving the new populations and serving the growing west side community. And again, this large into the modern era, we have the Crambo store. We thank Bob Becker for some of his renderings of some of these neighborhood stores and views of the west side. This, of course, this building served as a grocery store for many years, but then eventually, I believe it was burned several years ago. But again, 3rd Avenue, and what we would be looking down Clark Street. But you know, we talk about neighborhoods. This is a month of neighborhood. There's still, you know, with the pictures that we've seen, we don't think of it of neighborhoods. Well, there's still neighborhoods. There's still houses. People still are living here. There are 4th Avenue. A lot of people in the neighborhood. I just wanted to show the fact that there is people living here throughout those, from the 1880s, 1870s to the present day. This neighborhood, this area of the near west side is still home to a lot of neighborhoods and a lot of homes that still are a part of the west side as well as the city of Wausau. So with that, is sort of a little bit, I mean, there's a lot more stories that we wish we could have told you about this near west side, but this is sort of just a little bit of a glimpse of what that near west side was all about. So with that, I'll turn it back to Ben.
There we go. Hey, yeah, awesome. Covered a lot of ground there for sure, as we end up doing. Um, but yeah, kind of a interesting story there. As Gary said, we are continuing that story of neighborhoods for the most part. Next week we're gonna kind of bring that to an end, to a close, I guess, with a discussion about. Well, it kind of started off as a neighborhood thing, and it's kind of we'll see where it ends up next week. But I'm going to be talking about the John Muir Junior High School and its construction and why it was chosen there and how that came to be and what that meant for the West Side, kind of further on than the near West Side that Gary was talking about today. So yeah, we'll see. Some interesting stuff there for sure, and I look forward to sharing with that with you. Um, Given the date, it being Thanksgiving, I will probably pre-record something and just release it at the regular time. So, yeah, hopefully that works out all right. And I hope you come back for that next week. Um, oop, I'm just going to go back and check to see if there's some comments about the Scott Peterson mentioned that he used to buy day old donuts at Gary's Bakery as a kid. Yeah, lots of fun memories, I'm sure, for people who remember those era that this part of the city. Um, so yeah, thanks for watching. I think we'll call that the program today. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon or whenever you're watching this, and we will see you next time for some more local Wausau history.